Our theme this month is what if? And today the topic is what if you had a 4.0 GPA? What if you and each living creation of infinite intelligence actually expressed that intelligence fully, confidently, and without exception? Wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't that be exciting? I think it would be like having Albert Einstein, Andrew Carnegie, Ken Jennings, Stephen Hawking, and Ernest Holmes all in my mastermind group. Well, this month's series, What If, is all about connecting with the infinite. Infinite perfect health, infinite limitless prosperity, and today, infinite intelligence. In his book, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle says this: underneath your outer form, you are connected with something so vast, so immeasurable, and so sacred. And you can know that for yourself. Yet, how many of us really believe that? Really believe that? Or know that? Or even consider the possibilities of that? Tolle describes that as hiding the truth within our very selves. That which we think of as our body. And for many people, I guess maybe that's the best place to hide it, because that's the last place they look. So it's sort of like, now where did I leave my glasses? What was it I wanted to be sure and do today? Or if I didn't have voicemail and text messaging, I wouldn't remember a thing. But what if instead of thinking or verbalizing those kinds of thoughts, we chose to remember the infinite potential within each one of us? What if, with conscious intention and focus, we recognize that our mental development and the development of knowledge were balanced with a corresponding growth in consciousness? And what if we remembered that all spiritual teachings originated from the same source, so that we can access that source from within? So if these three things were so, surely our GPA would always be a 4.0. GPA. When I was in college, that stood for grade point average. For some students, that was a highly coveted measure of intelligence. Focused effort, attention to detail, like attendance, homework, test scores, and keeping one's eyes open in class in case the professor looked at you. I remember one of my freshman classes at WhT College when I first started there was in a large lecture hall. And it was actually a formal auditorium structure, so that the professor was down at the bottom of the slope on the stage, and all of the seats were angled up like an auditorium. And the floor was bare concrete. And about 60%, maybe more, of the students in that class, because it was a basic psychology class, introduction to psychology, about 60% of the students in that class knitted. It was like a craze. And when I started asking questions about it, it turns out they found that was a way to stay awake in class, particularly if you knitted argyle socks, because you had to follow the pattern. You had to stay awake to do that. So I learned to knit argyle socks in order to stay awake in some of these boring classes. Well, one day we are in class. Dr. Mills is at the podium. He is delivering his usual rather dry, monotonous talk. And the room is very quiet, either knitting or sleeping. Those were the two options for most of us. And suddenly, clink, 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 a metal knitting needle hit the floor. And because the floor was sloped, it went ching, 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 all the way down to the bottom of that sloped floor. Psychology class. Dr. Mills walks down the steps off the stage, around to the front of the room, and there is the needle. He bends down, he picks it up, never says a word, walks back up the stairs, back to the podium, lays it on the podium, and says, whoever this belongs to, you can pick it up at the end of class. You think? So that was a way that people had found to pay attention in a class where otherwise they would have slept. If you've been in college classes, and I know most of you have, some of them can be very dry. Some of the rooms can be uncomfortably warm, and some of the previous history, like how much I slept last night or in the last 5 nights, can also have an impact to where our clarity, our energy levels, our interest shut down and we go to sleep. So I thought that was a really inventive way. And being able to knit argyle socks served me for quite some time after that, because I got pretty good at it. That was a year-long class. In any event, focus, attention to detail, keeping one's eyes open, whether it's in a formal class or in a general sense. So, highly motivated students take classes that would further their career aspirations, so their schedules are loaded, not only with core courses, but also with courses in their major studies in interest or areas of interest. Courses that were likely to be difficult, highly specialized, complex. So a high GPA was always the objective for this type of student. And a 4.0 used to be the best that one could achieve. Now, students in high school take advanced classes, do extracurricular work, and they are able to earn an A+ or better, and that can push that 4.0 even higher. Other students, not so highly motivated, discover that to stay in college, one's GPA must be acceptable to the administration of that Institute of Higher Learning. So they creatively schedule their class schedules to include, in addition to the required core courses, classes that are relatively easy for them to achieve a good grade in. And since the key word is average, that would boost or maintain their GPAs at an acceptable level. But what if? What if in school, in work, in life, what if the GPA stood for greatest potential achieved? Greatest potential achieved. What if we remembered that knowledge originates from the same source, and that we can access that source from within ourselves? So, here's the deal. What if at the front of every registration line in our institutes of learning, from kindergarten clear on up through graduate school, colleges and universities, What if a spiritual practitioner, a prayer practitioner, was available to students, and in the earlier years to parents as well? A prayer practitioner was available to support students in consciousness as they sign up for the school year, as they structure their schedules and their classes. For elementary and high school students, that could include knowing that the instructors, as well as the programs available, were for the students' highest and best good. For college students, that could include knowing that the process of choosing their areas of focus or majors was for their highest and best good. And what if that spiritual prayer practitioner was available to support those students spiritually in opening up new avenues of financing so that the student could focus on learning without the stress of the total cost of that education? What if that spiritual practice and prayer practitioner was available to teachers, to teacher aides, to instructors, to professors, to coaches, to advisors who design the courses for students and who work with students on a daily basis? What if that prayer practitioner was available to support them as they mold young minds and bodies? What a way to boost and maintain GPAs. Greatest potential achieved. So, what if all students were supported in remembering the infinite potential within? What if, with conscious intention and focus, all students recognized that their mental development and development of knowledge is balanced with a corresponding growth in consciousness? And what if all students remembered that all teachings originated from the same source? And that if everyone can access that source from within? Wow. See the potentials here? The infinite possibilities? I see such opportunities just waiting to be seized. First of all, I see magnificent opportunities for spiritual mind practitioners to offer the services they have studied for and prepared themselves to provide, including as a source of income. Next, I see the opportunities for all of us who study at any age, opportunities to avail ourselves of that same support. Before we take a Science of Mind class or a test, before we engage in any of a variety of learning possibilities, whether formal or casual, that we connect with a spiritual prayer practitioner who knows the truth, that we are one with the one mind of God, that divine intelligence, that creative power, that life energy, and that in knowing that our GPA, our greatest potential achieved, is always the very best, whether that's 4.0 or 4 pazillion. When I was preparing this talk, I went to one of the many bookcases in my home, and I pulled out this book that Tully wrote, his first book, The Power of Now. And when I went back to the table where I was working on the computer, this book was also lying on the table. Your Invisible Power. I had no conscious knowledge of bringing this one with me from the bookshelf to the table, yet there it was. And I haven't had this book out in a very long time. So it was either stuck to Tully's book or just in my hand as I pulled his out. I don't know, but there it was. And long ago, I've learned not to question these kinds of occurrences, but rather to know that they happen for a reason. So I picked it up and I thumbed through it, and I found this quote that I want to share with you. There is no such thing as being outside the unified field of infinite potential looking in. Whether it be God looking at mankind or humankind, or us looking at God. We are all part of the same unified field of potential. And that unified field is existence itself, flowing in, around, and through everything. It's the arena where all possibilities unfold. Wow. What if every child, every teen, every young adult took that with them into each learning experience? What if every parent, every grandparent, every relative, every teacher knew that for each student, regardless of age? What if every prayer practitioner, licensed or not, spoke those words of truth for each student on registration day? Surely, GPAs, greatest potentials achieved, would soar. And so it is. Thank you.